And greetings. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to the Steve Deace Show here, live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast. I'm Steve Deace. I'm on location here in beautiful Phoenix. Got about 4 miles of walking in this morning. It was 60 degrees. Sunrise over the mountains. Saw some palm trees. I'm in a very, very good mood, especially after last night. Fantastic dinner with the men of TPUSA Faith that we had. And I was brought in here to encourage them and their team and just help them strategize and plan and plot the takeover of the looming and forthcoming, we pray anyway, Christian theocracy we've all been waiting and hoping for many eons. And I have to tell you, man, first of all, Lucas, who's just become a very good friend, Lucas Miles, the head of TPUSA Faith, and then the caliber of the mostly young men, not all, some of them were, my age, but the mostly young men that I had a chance to break bread with last night. Just humble hearts, but a zeal at the same time. They want to serve Jesus. They want to conquer the world for Jesus. And I was brought in to encourage them, and I got to tell you, I walked away maybe even more encouraged, kind of thinking we might have a chance to win this thing if we can hold on for a little bit longer. So I've got another day of meetings here, and then I'll be flying back home right after the show tomorrow. Todd Erzin, Aaron McIntyre back there in Des Moines. Hey, we've got a brand new partner here on the show we want to introduce you to. And whenever somebody new joins, we always want to give them top billing when they come in. It's called Jevity, for longevity. And it's a company started by a founder who lost his dad to lung cancer at 58, so not much older than Todd and I are. His dad, non-smoker, active guy. There were no warning signs whatsoever. Basically, the conventional medicine or sick care system failed him. And so with that as an inspiration, they wanted to go after, hey, what can we actually take a look at in terms of preventative health and long-term screening and not just waiting until you get sick and then maybe try to fix it. They can maybe even come to your house with their lab draws, their blood draws, depending on where you live around the country. They test over 100 labs. I just went through the testing, and I thought the information was fascinating. So much so, man, I got to watch my video again, and I'm going to actually have to take some notes. All right, really, really good stuff. No insurance nightmares, no bureaucratic nonsense, just your data, people who can help you to understand it. Go to Jevity, gojevity.com/Deace. That's GoJevity. Here's how it's spelled. G-E-V as in victory, I-T-I. All right, G as in go, E, V as in victory, I-T-I. gojevity.com/Deace. Use the code Deace for your 20% off discount. gojevity.com/Deace. Use the code Deace for 20% off and your discount at gojevity.com/Deace, code Deace. And you can also use the code Deace as well to get a discounted subscription here at Blaze TV at blazetv.com/Deace. Make sure you don't miss any of the exclusive content that not just we do on our show, but all the shows here at Blaze TV do. Just $8 a month is what it comes down to with that discount code of Deace. blazetv.com/Deace. Code Deace. All right, coming up on today's show, Mary Holland's going to join us here at the bottom of the hour from Children's Health Defense. They are launching a landmark lawsuit, and we're going to talk to them about that here at the bottom of the hour. Next hour, we're going to be joined by the weekly prophet of woe and lamentation himself, Daniel Horowitz. And of course, how could I forget the highlight of the show? Sandwiched in between, your buy-seller hold. So we look forward to that as always. But before we get to that, we also look forward to Aaron's rundown of what happened while we were away.
What happened while we were away, brought to you by Drawdown.
Announced effective immediately. We'll draw down 700 people effective today.
During a news conference this morning, border czar Tom Homan says the reduction in federal presence in the Twin Cities is only coming after.
We currently have an unprecedented number of counties communicating with us now and allowing ICE to take custody of illegal aliens before they hit the streets. Unprecedented cooperation.
Homan also says the roadblocks those commie street orcs are setting up in Minneapolis.
It's a joke. Only people you're hurting is your own community who wants to go and get groceries, pick up the dry cleaning, or go to work, whatever. You're just hindering them. When I was away to where the roadblocks is, I called the chief of police, and he went and disbanded them after I got off the phone with him.
In other news, FBI Director Kash Patel tells Fox News.
You were convinced that Epstein killed himself in jail. Today, 8 months after that, are you still convinced?
Yes.
100%.
Yes, sir.
Okie dokie then. Senate Majority Leader John Thune says the problem with passing the SAVE Act right now is
the coin in the realm in the Senate is floor time. There's a finite amount of it, and we have a lot of things we have to do. There's a housing bill that's awaiting action, hopefully a market structure bill, possibly permitting reform, farm bill, highway bill. You can go right down the list. Russia sanctions. There are a whole bunch of things that could be teed up for action on the floor of the Senate. And so you have to make some judgments.
President Trump says what?
Who would not want voter ID? Only somebody that wants to cheat. Think of it. We don't have voter ID. And the Democrats don't want it. And the reason they don't want it is because they want to cheat.
Some more good news on the gender sanity front. The American Society of Plastic Surgeons this week becomes the first major medical voice to oppose meatball surgery for children in the name of gender. The group cites growing uncertainty about the benefits of medical and surgical interventions. Immediately after that announcement, the American Medical Association tells National Review, quote, the AMA agrees with ASPS that surgical interventions in minors should be generally deferred to adulthood. Meanwhile, in Wiley, Texas.
Okay, so I'm Marco. I'm the president of the High School Republicans at Wiley East High School. And today there was an organization called Why Islam that had a huge table booth in front of our school today, and they were giving hijabs to Muslim girls out throughout the high school, and they were giving out Qurans, and they also had pamphlets about Sharia law and other Islamic things, and they were giving out these bags. And I had a discussion with the women that were there, and we're trying to understand what's going on.
Was everybody in a hijab?
So they were passing out to as much, girls as they could, so that was their goal.
How many students took those bags?
I don't have an exact number of how many people took them, but I can say that they were trying to get as much out as they could.
And it was during the school day, right?
Yes, it was during lunch.
During lunch.
And we typically have colleges come out, or we have our clubs have tables, but we've never had a faith group, to my understanding.
So Christians have never been allowed to come?
Not from what I've seen. I've never seen churches or Bibles passed out. I can't affirm that that's 100%, but what I can say is that this was a big thing that they
And finally, meet a 13-year-old hero. This Australian young man says he swam for 4 kilometers, ran another 2 kilometers to rescue his mother and siblings after they were swept into the ocean while kayaking and paddleboarding.
The kite kept on taking in water, but I was also thinking about all my friends at school and friends at my Christian youth. And yeah, I just said, all right, not today, not today, not today. I had to keep on going, but I couldn't feel how tired I was. I don't know, I was more thinking of a lot of things that, was happening in my life. I think at one point I was thinking of Thomas the Tank Engine, trying to get the happiest things in my head. Finally, I just made it to shore, and I hit the bottom of the beach, and I just collapsed. And then after that, I had to sprint 2 kilometers to go get to the phone. And then when I got to the phone, there was a lot of foreign people on the beach, so I couldn't really get much help. And so I ran to the phone and I called 000, and I had to call 000 police. I said I need helicopters, I need planes, I need boats. In that meantime, when I didn't know where they were and how they were, and I thought they were dead, I had a lot of guilt in my heart. Because, I thought, oh man, I wasn't fast enough. And also on the swim, I got a girlfriend, and I was thinking about her the whole time. She gave me her lackeys, and I was just looking at that the whole time. Just keep on swimming, I don't think it was actually me, did I? It was God the whole time. I kept on praying, and I said to God, I'll get baptized, and all that. And I went to church on Sunday.
But an insane testimony, and that's what happened while we were away.
Wow. Aaron's montage brought to you by our friends over at Relief Factor. If you're struggling with too much chronic pain, that's probably because you've got too much inflammation in your joints. That's where Relief Factor comes into play. It's the drug-free supplement created by doctors who can prescribe drugs, but they wanted to defeat the cause, not just the symptoms. So they're going right after that inflammation, and they're going after it with Relief Factor. Now, no guarantee that it will be your solution. It's not an antidote. But over the years, over 1 million people have tried the 3-week quick start. And you know what? 70% of them have seen such good results, they've stuck with the product long term. So why don't you see if you don't see a difference in 3 weeks or less when you go to relieffactor.com? Again, it's just $20 to find out. That's all it costs for 3 weeks, just to see if you don't see a difference in 3 weeks or less at relieffactor.com. All right, gentlemen, let's begin in response to Aaron's montage with a couple of questions here. Did we win the Battle of Minnesota? And let me define victory here. Victory defined as a sufficient enough show of strength and competency that it will not embolden blue cities across the country this spring and summer once the weather heats up to attempt to test our resolve with another summer of love. That's how I'm going to choose to define victory. All right. Did we win? Did we lose? Is it too early to tell? What do you guys think?
We did not win.
Why do you say that?
I just don't believe for it. I mean, we were talking about this last Friday, I think, and I said, you know, it's going to be ultimately about what you just said. What happens in other states? If we're drawing down now after less than a week of Tom Homan, I mean, we know the enemy. We talk about the enemy all the time. I just don't believe for a second that they've seen a sufficient show of comeuppance. I mean, we've got right now in the face of it, Don Lemon just going off in Hollywood, cheering him on. I'm sorry. I mean, wise as serpents, innocent as doves, and the serpents are going to come back.
Aaron, what do you think?
I think we're closer to winning than Todd is intimating. However, is closer to winning sufficient? No. For fomenting all of these things, and Tom Homan talked about it this morning, all of these leaders in the Twin Cities and greater Minnesota, but mostly in the Twin Cities, who are actively encouraging, signaling, using the language that they are all in unison with these commie street orcs. That is incitement. That's incitement. Somebody should have been arrested. One of these leaders should have been arrested. And Tom Homan again said it this morning, the rhetoric has to stop. The rhetoric has to stop. Then make it stop. However, on the other side of the ledger, you heard him say there, I saw these commie street orcs setting up these barricades, so I called the chief of police, and immediately after, these were dismantled. Also, we have seen the deployment of local and state police forces to quell some of these agitators who are trying to... When was the last time you saw one of these agitators in one of these mobs go to a hotel where ICE was staying at? It's been about a week, and it's been about a week since they started to deploy those local and state police forces. So I think there was definitely a change, definitely some, let's just call it accommodation when it came to leadership in Minnesota. Why that was the case? Was it the Chamber of Commerce? Was it Tim Walz on his last lap here politically, just trying to seek the path of least resistance? I don't know the answer to that. But I'm not going to say total victory, but I do think it's closer to a win than maybe Todd is intimating.
I would also be more positive than Todd. Not that but it's not necessarily because I disagree with his analysis. I mean, we don't know. We're sitting here on February 4th. We don't know what's going to transpire on May 4th, June 4th, July 4th, August 4th, right? That's all speculative. But I certainly think you're not irrational or a black pillar to think that if you're thinking we've not shown enough force to avoid that occurring. I also think, though, what Aaron, you just said is very important too, in that the amount of local enforcement that they have now been thrust into doing themselves in Minnesota And in a way, and I think probably given Trump's worldview, this is maybe the extent of what he's capable of. And so when you hear people like Jesse Kelly say Trump isn't the end, he's the beginning, we have to hope that that's the truth. All right, because essentially what we've created is a triangulation in Minnesota, where we've now thrust their local law enforcement into, as you just pointed out, Aaron, into imposing enforcement on their own orcs, on their own acolytes, right? And at the very least, I think it's clear their zeal has been tampered down because of that. I would not call it a victory. I would not call it a win. I don't think it's an L. I think it's a strategy. And I think for now it is working. I think Todd is correct that we should be skeptical about whether that will hold in the long run. And whether it is this summer or summers to come, we eventually are going to have to see a conflict with these people through to the end, to victory. And I think that's just going to take a people with more resolve than we currently have as a people. And that's how you'll get the leaders that have more resolve to do so than we currently have. Another question, Kash Patel. Do you guys really believe that he believes Jeffrey Epstein killed himself? Do you believe that he believes that?
I believe that he believes that Jeffrey Epstein killed himself.
So you think that's his sincere belief, is what you think?
I think he believes that that's his sincere belief. Whatever he needs to be his sincere belief at the given time, that's what he believes.
I think it's plausible that he just puts himself in a position of plausible deniability on a lot of things. He's Colonel Klink. I know nothing. I see nothing. Because he really doesn't want to know, because he knows he's not the man for the job, except for the paycheck and the deliverables on the life he gets to lead. I mean, I think that's perhaps Occam's razor.
If we polled every single person that voted for Donald Trump in 2024, do you believe Jeffrey Epstein killed himself? I'm going to put the over-under on no's at 65%. Are you taking the over or the under?
The over.
Over.
Yeah, I think the over is easy. How about 75%?
Over.
Still over? Maybe get.
Yeah, I think
80,
for
I
fun.
think 80 is the line.
You think 80 is the line? So, I talked about this yesterday with John Harris, this question, Todd, that you asked me the other day off the air. And I brought it up to John Harris yesterday on the air. Hey, how do you plan on handling this Tucker-Bongino dynamic when one guy clearly went to DC and underperformed what our expectations were at this time last year? Would anybody dispute that? If we did that, if we polled our audience, and said, do you believe Dan Bongino delivered what you were hoping for when he left his show at this time last year to become deputy director of the FBI?
You can set
what percentage would say no, do you think?
You can set the over at 80 on that one, and I'll definitely take the over.
Do you think it's over 80?
Yeah.
Aaron, what do you think?
Yes. Over.
All right. Okay. At the same token, we only have a couple of really prominent platforms with the size to push back on this, I guess we'll call it nefarious element within our own ranks that our show's been very concerned about and has been confronting, but I don't have the status of show to confront these kinds of elements on a mano-a-mano basis. And Dan does, and he has the willingness to and the stature to do it and the credibility to do it. And we desperately need Dan's voice right now in that fight. And he's eager for it. So how do we do that with the fact that, frankly, Tucker Carlson told us more about what we sent Dan to do at the FBI than he and Kash did. And yet, on a lot of the other existential fights on our side, we'd probably be more inclined to be, as a show, probably more Team Bongino than Carlson, Team Tucker. Think that's fair?
At this point, yes.
Right.
Here, Todd, you think that's fair?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought about this on the flight out here yesterday. I had about 2.5 hours on the flight. And just let me share with all of you the conclusion I came to on this. I don't believe for a second Dan Bongino left a 7+ figure show. There's nothing for him to, like, I don't believe Tucker is selling out. I completely disagree with people saying Tucker's being bought off. He was making 30 to 40 million a year at Fox. I don't believe he's being bought off. He's making millions now. I think the truth is worse than that. Is that our new show slogan? I think the truth is worse than that. Oh, it's worse than that. I think it's worse than that. I think this is sincere conviction to Tucker. I think Tucker believes he's on a mission from God, 100%. I don't think this is a grift whatsoever. I don't. I think that this is conviction. He's traveling halfway across the world to speak to an empty room in Saudi Arabia. What are they going to pay him? $1 million or $2 million? He's already got tens of millions. No, I think that's conviction, man. Nor do I think that Dan Bongino walked away from one of the most lucrative platforms in our business, which he built. Literally, guys, you need to understand this. Dan built this from his bare hands. He started out doing Facebook Lives from a room in his home, literally. I mean, he built it from nothing with his bare hands, and he's going to walk away from that. What is in DC that would make Dan Bongino want to sell out and not deliver for us what we had hoped for? What's there that he didn't already have? Nothing. There's nothing there. No, I don't think that Dan Bongino went there and sold out. I think the truth is way worse than that. And I think we need to, I can't speak to this guy, Kash Patel. Don't know him, never met him. And, you know, as I've said on the show before, every time that guy talks, he gives me a feeling like he's not being fully honest with me. But I don't know anything about him. I don't, on a personal level at all. Never met him one time. And yeah, I know people who do know him, and it's like with everybody else. You talk to people that don't know me, or that you don't know me, but they know me. Some people are telling me they love me. Some will tell you they don't. Some people will tell me they love Steve Bannon. Some will say they don't. Some will say they love Kash Patel. Some will say they don't. You know, I can't make value judgments on that. But I do know Dan. And there's nothing to be offered him there that he didn't already have. And here's the thing. He not only had it, he owned it. He owned it all. Made it, did it himself. Rumble, think of everything else. He's done it all. He's done it himself. So I think we need to contemplate then that if the likes of Dan Bongino are not able to go there, when they're not, they can't be bought off. They already have everything. If the likes of Dan Bongino are able to go there, are able to go there under those conditions, and come back with essentially, I got nothing. I mean, we arrested a bunch of terrible people. That's the basic function of the job. Dan Bongino didn't leave a 7+ figure business to go and arrest pedophiles. A lot of people could have done that. And we applaud every single one of those arrests, but lots of people that didn't, have the gross domestic product of Bolivia platform that he had could do that. Dan didn't go there for that. Dan went there to crack the codes of the universe we've all wanted to know, and largely came back with squat. And I think that should literally scare the hell out of you. That's the conclusion I came to on the plane out here yesterday. If you can't send the likes of Dan Bongino with his resolve, with his financial independence, there's nothing to buy him off with, nothing to tempt him with. He's got it all. Beautiful wife, lives in a beautiful home, has a great family, has career success. Everybody loves him. He's a workout warrior. Men our age look at Dan Bongino and said, man, I wish I was that dude. If that dude went to DC and came back spayed and neutered, folks. And, we were talking off the air as a show, the timing of Dan coming back to his program right when all these Epstein files come out, right? How that was going to work out. Well, that timing turned out to be providential, I think, but not in the way maybe that we were thinking when we discussed this privately the other day, guys. We are seeing now, I quoted the great prophet George Carlin, it's a big club and we ain't in it. What you're seeing in so many of these emails is how deep this system of grift and graft and patronage is. And they're all circular molesting one another constantly, male, female, Republican, Democrat, all of them. Heavy petting each other. giving each other hickeys constantly, and they're putting it in writing for all to see. If we can't send a cat like Dan Bongino with nothing to lose and nothing to be bought off with and nothing to be threatened with, if we send that guy to D.C. for a year in a power position like that, and he comes back with bupkis, yikes. Yikes. It's way worse than any of us thought. And gentlemen, that is the conclusion that I came to on the plane out here last night. Your thoughts on that?
Well, we knew it was bad. And I think all of us would have said if you're a grown up, it's more than 1 year bad. So it begs questions. If he's leaving after a year and he's made the conclusions like I could stay here another 3 years, and I'm just reading the room, and here's the variables X, Y, Z, Y, another 3 years wouldn't matter. If you're coming back to your show, I'm going to need a different response than F all you guys for asking me questions and holding me accountable. That's not going to work, because if you're leaving after a year with your hair on fire, you should be saying Kash needs to go, and here's why, and outing people. And I mean, I don't know. I agree with you. Your premise about it's worse than we thought, I'm not going to get any argument. But then just going back to business as usual, no way. You got to say, Kash is in the way. These people are in the way. Here's how it is. Let us know. It can't be passive-aggressive nonsense. I don't mind that you failed. It might be impossible. You're not bad because you failed at this, but don't play us for fools.
Man, is the FBI like the Hotel California? It's just random, weird, trippy things going on all the time. It's just kind of a dream of a dream. And then once you leave, you can't really ever leave totally. That's kind of what it sounds like.
A 9-digit fever dream?
Yes. Yeah. That's kind of what it seems like. That's kind of the picture that's being painted. But Kash Patel, for him, what's weird about this is that he comes from very much a social media driven kind of background. I mean, he was instrumental, I think, was it Russiagate the first time around?
That was the first time his name was known.
But then he kind of became a personality / influencer / he was known by right-wingers. So he's very well aware of the mood. He's very well aware of the media temperature, at the very least on our side. You would think that he would be able to, I'm not saying that he needs to lie, definitely not. I'm not saying that he needs to massage, definitely not. But you think he would be more aware in how he communicates of that ecosystem and how it comes off. Instead, it's just like, no, he killed himself. Get out of here. That's how it comes across repeatedly. And you would think he would know how to communicate that and message it. If it is even true, you'd think he'd know how to do that a little bit better, communicate that a little bit better.
What's Kash Patel stay there for then?
I think Occam's razor is what Steve Friend says. It's just the lifestyle.
So then, I mean, essentially, Dan got what we're saying then is basically Dan got there and realized it was a simulation or death. So it's just the Borg, and he just chose to.
Yeah. Well, then we need to hear that.
Eject.
Yeah. We need to hear that. And look, at Kash Patel, there's no difference.
I agree that we need to hear that. That's easy, though, for you and I to say, Todd, when these aren't our relationships, our friends. We're not the ones that are going to get a call from the President of the United States at night.
That's fair. That's fair,
saying,
but we're also...
Why are you doing that? But you're right. You're right, of course.
But he's basically saying, F you guys.
It's easy for us to say from the cheap seats.
Right
Dan
now,
is right about that.
Yeah, I don't think that's unreasonable, but he's turning it up to 11 right away on his show and just saying, screw you guys for asking any questions. No. Not doing that either.
That's fair, too. That's fair, too. What a time. I go back to what I said at the top. We can win this if we can hold on. More in a moment.
Show.
All right, back here on the Steve Deace Show. I'm on location in Phoenix. Todd and Aaron are back there in Des Moines. We're brought to you by our friends over at Patriot Mobile. They have been on the vanguard of the parallel economy over the last several years. And when I say they take the profits that you invest in them and they've reinvested them back into the causes that and values they share with you, I've seen it firsthand all over the country. I see signs of Patriot Mobile reinvesting back into the cause. And you should invest in them, though, not just because of that, but primarily because it's a great product. And I can't give it a better endorsement than this is the service my family and I have been paying out of our own pockets for now for going on 6 years. I've swapped out multiple phones and now my iPad in the last few weeks. And again, these guys, they're always ready to help you get your data locked in, your data transferred over. It's a fantastic customer service team. It's a fantastic product. You can't beat it. And if you make the switch today, maybe you're locked into a terrible deal with a corporation who hates your guts. They've got contract buyout programs for you. You're going to get all the bells and whistles of the companies who hate you, but not from a company that hates you. All right. So start now with a free month of service with my promo code Steve when you go to patriotmobile.com/Steve. That's patriotmobile.com/Steve. Use the code Steve to get started today with a free month of service at patriotmobile.com/Steve. Well, we welcome back to the program Mary Holland from Children's Health Defense. Mary, it is good to see you. How are you?
Having me.
You guys just filed a landmark lawsuit here against the American Academy of Pediatrics. Tell us about it, Mary.
We did. We filed a racketeering case. It's a civil case. We're arguing that the American Academy of Pediatrics acts like a front organization for Big Pharma. They've been lying for decades to parents and to their pediatrician members that the vaccine schedule is fully tested and is robustly safe. And that's simply false. They know it's false. The Institute of Medicine, the highest medical authority in the country, has told them in 2002 and 2013, or told the world, you cannot say that the schedule is safe. It has not been adequately tested. They've never tested it. They've deflected those questions. And we just think that that's wrong. It's a fraud.
Why do you think that this particular lawsuit may have a chance to proceed forward to what should be a very juicy discovery process?
Yes.
Why do you think that this one has the potential to do it when other such attempts to get information out of these folks has been thwarted by the system?
Well, this hasn't been tried before, Steve. I don't think I don't think there's ever been a racketeering case based on the fraud that there really is no science behind the whole childhood vaccine schedule. And I think it comes at a very important and interesting time because it's the American Academy of Pediatrics that's being held out as the authority by 19 states that are saying we're no longer going to follow the Centers for Disease Control and what Kennedy's doing. So the narrative is now contested. They have a hearing next Friday in Boston in federal court against Kennedy, arguing that what he has done violates the Administrative Procedures Act. So we want the world to understand you better be very careful before you hold out the American Academy of Pediatrics as your authority when it comes to childhood health, because they've been lying to you for decades about the safety of the vaccine schedule.
So on one end, they want to interject themselves into this debate and be seen as having legit standing to bring their own version of a landmark lawsuit against a key member of the administration. Correct. What I hear you guys saying is, oh, okay, well, since you guys decided to put yourselves out there as a key vehicle to drive policy, well, then you should be held accountable then for the results of your said policies on the other end. You can't have it both ways. Is that kind of what you guys are saying in a way?
Yeah, exactly. I think the timing just works out. We certainly did our lawsuit independently, but I think it's very important that the timing is right now when the AAP is holding itself out as more human services of the federal government. We need to inspect that and interrogate that claim. And what we're asserting is that they have knowingly lied to pediatricians and parents across the country for decades.
why wouldn't they, in their court filings, when they filed to have your suit summarily dismissed with prejudice, which they'll probably do
Yes,
in about 15 minutes,
sure.
when they do that, why don't they just go ahead and include the evidence that they have to challenge your assertion and prove you wrong, so that you'll never be able to darken their door ever again? Why don't they just offer that up and just finish this?
Well, I look forward to the day if they can do that, Steve. I don't think they can. That's the point. They
Mm-hmm.
don't have the evidence that the childhood vaccine schedule has been robustly tested. In fact, we believe that the whole schedule should be subject to prior free and informed consent. You decide with your doctor about whether or not you want to do this. You get full information and you can consent or you can refuse. They are behind mandates. They are behind more vaccines. They have never met a vaccine they didn't like, that they didn't endorse putting on the schedule. And so we argue that this is really about the money. It's really not about children's health. They suppress the science. They suppress the doctors. Our two lead plaintiffs, Steves, are moms of children who died by following the routine schedule said to be safe by the AAP.
If they lack that evidence, then what is the claim that they're making the other way against Secretary Kennedy then? I mean, hey, we just don't like it. That's grounds for a lawsuit. We just
No.
don't like it. It would seem they would claim that they have counter evidence to his claims then, right?
Right. Well, so much of what's happened historically is they say we're the doctors, we have the MDs, we're the pediatricians, we represent 67,000. We've always been in lockstep with the CDC up until now, so we must be right. What they're arguing in their case against HHS is that what Kennedy has done violates the Administrative Procedure Act. They're saying that he doesn't have the authority to do what he's done. It's going to be an interesting lawsuit. I mean, that's definitely important and one that we have to watch. But we would argue that regardless, that's a separate lawsuit, but they aren't who they claim to be. They are seen as the leaders, but the reality is when it comes to the vaccine program, which is the backbone of pediatric visits, they have been resting on lies.
Well, that's why I wanted to draw their parallel lawsuit against the secretary into this, because I want our audience to connect some dots. So on one end, they want to file a case not based on the evidence that Secretary Kennedy is wrong, but they want to do so on an administrative technicality, probably went judge shopping for some federal circuit judge they knew would rule in their favor, and will probably ultimately have to have the Supreme Court render, whether the Secretary of Health and Human Services can actually be the Secretary of Health and Human Services. But I want our audience to see that they didn't want to fight this out on an evidentiary basis. They want to fight this out on, some obscure, application to an administrative rule, because that applies to your case too, Mary. If they had the evidence just to blow you out of the water, I presume they would submit it.
But I think one of the things that's interesting, Steve, is, they went into court against Kennedy. We're going into court against them. One way or the other, hopefully, we're going to actually get to see some evidence in a courtroom about their claims of safety and their claims that Kennedy's wrong and he's not using science. They really rest on their authority. They rest on their reputation of having been in lockstep with CDC. But we allege they're essentially a front organization for the pharmaceutical industry. And it's really not backed by science.
You said something interesting earlier. I want to, if we could just pin that one down and make sure I understood it. Are you saying that this organization has never, ever been opposed to a singular vaccine? Not one time?
I'm not aware of a single time. They have institutional standing. They did have institutional standing in the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices. Kennedy has pushed them out. But I'm not aware that they have ever opposed a vaccine that was proposed by the advisory committee. The expansion of the vaccine schedule since 1986 from 7 different antigens to now 17 was fully supported by the AAP. And interestingly, in their lawsuit against Kennedy, they focus on what would be the loss of revenue. They are not focused on what's going to, they say that children are going to die. There's no evidence for that, Steve. They oppose, among other things, the birth dose of the hepatitis B vaccine. Hepatitis B is a sexually transmitted disease or through IV drug use. There's no evidence to suggest that babies are going to die because babies who don't need a hepatitis B vaccine don't get it. But that's what they're alleging. It's very much become an organization that pushes for pharmaceutical interventions including things like the injections for obesity, Wegovy. They put that out as a top priority. They push for vaccines at a very early age. They've been pushing for, so-called gender affirming care. They are really working on behalf of the pharmaceutical industry, although they say they're working on behalf of children.
All right, walk us through the end game here. If this goes the way you guys want it to go, what would that look like? What would it ultimately accomplish? How would the average person listening to us right now be impacted by that?
So the way that what we're asking for is that there would be a declaratory judgment, Steve, and that they would have to come clean, and they'd have to say, you know what, we weren't telling you the truth. There's not actually science behind what we've said, that this has been robustly tested. And they would also have to get behind shared decision making, that it can't be imposed by fiat by this group. So that's what we're looking for. That is, we're asking also for damages for the 2 pediatricians who were effectively exiled, and we're asking for damages for one family with a daughter who the school district followed the AAP guidelines, and she's paralyzed. She's in a wheelchair. So we're asking for damages, but that's limited. What this is really about is starting to tell the truth about children's health and getting this organization to reform itself to some extent.
And that's my final question for you, Mary. What doors would later be opened by virtue of winning this lawsuit? What paradigms shift from this time forward?
Well, we think, Steve, that there should be no medical mandates, that they are absolutely antithetical to the notion of prior free and informed consent. It really should be between you and your healthcare practitioner. And that is, when it comes to vaccines, what a lot of peer countries, Sweden, Japan, other countries practice. They allow parents and children to make their own decisions. Recommendations. We're not against recommendations, but let people make up their own mind. That's where we need to move, because, this idea of mandates comes out of smallpox. It comes out of a totally different era. It just isn't appropriate anymore. And we need to have a much more refined understanding of what really is inducing children's health. What we know, Steve, from the science that is coming out is that unvaccinated children are healthier. They don't have the chronic diseases that vaccinated children do. We've seen an explosion of chronic illness among children. Half of all kids have some kind of chronic condition, be it asthma, allergies, autism, ADHD, you name it.
Mary, how can people follow your outstanding work and stay more informed on these issues?
Please come to childrenshealthdefense.org. You can also go to Children's HD on X. We would welcome you. Thanks, Steve.
You bet. Thank you, Mary. God bless you. Take care.
Thank you. You too.
All right. Gentlemen, your thoughts on that conversation and the potential here of this landmark lawsuit filed by the Children's Health Defense?
Well, if you've never heard of AAP before, American Academy of Pediatrics, they are the quacks of the quacks. Remind me of what you said about Tucker before, and whether there's just too much money being bought off versus it's worse, true believer kind of thing. Big pharma. Hey, Steve, you mentioned this, and rightly so. Do they make drugs that save lives? Absolutely. It'd be pointless and stupid to argue that. But the real witchcraft is going on. The all-in behavior on multiple fronts is AAP. Not for, masks. They were all in. When the kids started going back to play sports, they were advising kids must wear masks while they're playing sports. Transgenderism, totally in. So it is a very savvy move to take them on, not from just the pharma perspective, but because they have shown over and over and over again, they drink the most toxic Kool-Aid, and they absolutely need to be exposed.
Aaron?
Amen. And these, to go into more detail, and I kind of laid this out in the montage on Monday a little bit, these are the organizations that basically give the knighting to basically any practice or product that they want to force you to take. That's what they do, and it's all under the guise of credentialism, expertise, institutional credibility. They have none, and now we're seeing that start to be challenged. And it's going to get really messy if RFK Jr., organizations like Children's Health Defense, if they continue to press, but it must be pressed. These types of organizations, and thank God we're starting to see them roll back a little bit now, both the plastic surgeons and the, I think it's, what did I say, the American Medical Association saying they agree with the plastic surgeons. Hey, cut it out with the mutilation for the sake of gender. That drops the same week after the first detransitioner wins a jury award.
Mm-hmm.
Now, again, that suit was not whether or not these doctors and psychologists should prescribe these mutilations. It was about whether or not they deviated from standards of care to do those mutilations. Now, standard of care and mutilation should never be used in the same sentence,
Correct.
but that's where we are.
Yeah.
And who comes up with these standards of care? Organizations like we just talked about. That's how messed up and utterly bass-ackwards our medical industry has become. And it's all in the name of, well, at least 90% of it is in the name of money. That's all it is. There's just too much money.
Listen, you guys know I'm a truth and data guy because I worship truth incarnate. Okay, so I'm a truth and data guy. I'm not afraid of truth. I'm not afraid of data. It doesn't mean it always tells me what I want to hear. It doesn't mean it always lines up with what I hope and the preferred outcome is. But the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. Blessed be the name of the Lord, whether it lines up with my preferred outcome or not. Amen. So what you need to know, I think, and that's why I wanted to connect those dots when we had Mary on just a few minutes ago. These people do not want to take on Secretary Kennedy on an evidentiary basis. They want to do so on an administrative one. Likewise, when they file to have Mary's organization's lawsuit, summary judgment dismissed with prejudice, when they file to do that, look at the filing yourself and see how much evidence they put out there to say this is frivolous in nature. These people are morons. They're flat earthers. They don't know what they're talking about. And here's the evidence they're in. Can we all just move on and get back to saving lives here? Stop this. And if anything, the court should sanction their attorneys for wasting the people's time with this. Just like we saw during COVID. We can't ever actually look at evidence. We just have to debate their policy. Well, how do we know if the policy's good? Well, we're experts. We told you it is. Well, I mean, what's your evidence? Well, our expert analysis and opinion. Bolstered by our expert analysis and opinion. You know, this is why I take great umbrage at those of you who were claiming last fall Candace Owens was doing with Charlie's assassination exactly what I did with COVID. No, she was not. I was looking at evidence. She's never had any. In many respects, she's got way more in common with what Big Pharma does, not what we do. Hour 2 is next. All right, back here with Hour 2, live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast. Steve Deace here. I'm on location in beautiful Phoenix, Arizona. Todd Ers and Aaron McIntyre back there in what's about to become beautiful Iowa, despite it being early February. Got a little warm-up coming right when I get back home, so I'm good to see that timing. And don't forget that you can let us know what you think about what we think via the stevedeace.com inbox. steve@stevedeace.com is the email address. That's DEACE. Like us on Facebook, MeWe, and Gab. You can follow me at Steve Deace Show on X, Instagram, and TikTok. Subscribe to our new YouTube channel at Deace Show on YouTube, at Deace Show on YouTube. Don't forget you can also hit subscribe or on Apple iTunes follow if you're a podcast listener, and that ensures that every time we do a new episode, it's right there in your podcast feed. And if you are one of our many podcast listeners, please be one of those that have left us one of the many, many 5-star reviews. Tens of thousands of you guys have done that. Thank you very much for each and every single one. And thank you if you're planning on adding yours today or doing it right now. We appreciate those too. And we appreciate our friends over at Chirp. I wish I would have remembered this during the break because I can't get up because my Rode broadcasting kit, the camera just follows my motion, right? And we have to reset the whole shot. But you just have to take my word for it, all right? Because right over there on the end table here in my room in Phoenix is my mini power massager, my rolling mini power massager from Chirp. I brought it with me. Fits in my carry-on. It's right over there on the table. Help my back stretch out, those hip flexors stretch out, you know. These are the kinds of things, and I mean, that's what I'm doing before I, go walk 4 miles this morning and enjoy the beautiful sunrise here in Phoenix. So these are the kinds of things, particularly as we get older, or if you're not getting older yet, but you're getting active again. And this is how you stop your body from fighting you, and instead it starts clamoring for more of what you're doing to make it better, right? How you get over those aches and pains, how you stay active, how you do as much preventative care as possible. The RPM is just one of the devices that Chirp has. If you do a lot of traveling, or maybe you just don't, but you've got alignment issues, back and neck issues, right? You can get the Chirp Contour. It's their decompression massage table. It does spinal decompression, soothing massage, and more. Again, these are some of the devices they've got at their disposal. These things are a part of my everyday lifestyle, particularly now that I'm on the road more than ever before, to stay active, to stay healthy as we get older. All right. Go Chirp, like a birdie chirp, CHIRP. That's where you want to go. GoChirp.com/Deace. You can see the full menu of what they've got there at GoChirp.com/Deace. And listen, man, trigger point roller. That's another term you wanna learn. They've got those there too. GoChirp.com/Deace. That's GoChirp.com/Deace. And now it is time to play some buy, sell, or hold. You guys know the drill. You guys have given Aaron your submissions. He has determined which one of those, or which many of those we will consider. Todd and I will consider buying it. We will consider selling it. We shall not, however, consider holding it, because if so, that would be a complete and total punking. And here's the punishment. All right, if you use your hold, Todd, if you use your hold, right, you have to sit in a room for 12 consecutive hours listening to Kash Patel talk to you. That's your punishment.
No, that'd be interesting recon. I want to see how we can weave lives past the soundbite.
Your mouth is taped shut, and he's the only one doing the talking.
Listening? I mean, man, I'll tell you what. It's still a non-Lindsey Graham olive branch, so.
That's novel.
You'll take what you can get.
It's novel.
Yeah.
I thought about not having a punishment just because it's so dang beautiful out here, but I wanted to just put Kash Patel on blast. He needs to catch more strays.
Fair. All right, you ready to begin?
Let's rock and roll.
Uncontexted Deace 2 Electric Boogaloo has this. Nicki Minaj will be the 4th panelist on the Deace group before Steve speaks at CPAC.
I love how they put her. Like that's Oron set, studio, isn't it? Yeah. Is that Oron set?
Yep.
I love that they put Nicki Minaj in Oron's set. That's a hard buy, guys. That's a hard buy.
Absolutely.
It's also a hard buy that Nicki Minaj is speaking at CPAC this year. Get ready for that graphic. That is happening.
For sure.
100%. That is happening. All right. If Nicki Minaj is not speaking at CPAC, then what are we even doing here? I don't even want to live in this world anymore. That's happening. You bet.
Bye.
Next, we go to Thomas Senko, who says, even if Republicans nuke the filibuster and pass the SAVE Act, blue states like Minnesota will not enforce it or will outright obstruct its enforcement like they have done with federal immigration laws.
Well, there are some of those blue states that will do that. Yeah, I don't deny that. I'm way more concerned about blue cities within blue states than I am blue states. And I'm way more concerned about Fulton County, Georgia than I am the entirety of Minnesota. And I'm way more concerned about Maricopa County, Arizona than I am the entirety of Minnesota or the entirety of California. And so to me, that's where the net benefit is. You're likely right, but I don't think it changes the calculus one iota. I don't. So I think you're right, but I think what you're inferring as an outcome is wrong. So I'm not sure, am I buying it or selling it? I guess I'll buy it on its face. Okay. But I think I would not black pill over that. I would not.
I'll buy, but it's the importance of what Steve is talking about, which is why what happens in Minnesota is so important. What happens in Minnesota is about the entire country, and
Correct.
and the warning signs people receive in places like Fulton County, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, I will buy. You're right. Minnesota is not going to stop being Minnesota, but it all depends on the messages sent nationwide.
Sean Anderson says the Detroit Lions will not be in a Super Bowl with Jared Goff as quarterback.
Well, first of all, Jared Goff's already taken a team to the Super Bowl, but you're also talking about depending on how you view the Browns. I mean, when the NFL brought the Browns back in '99, they restored them as the original franchise, not the Ravens, where they relocated. So it depends on if you view that technicality of the Browns as still an original franchise in the NFL or not. So maybe we'll say this: the longest contiguous heralded or heritage franchise in the NFL, the only one that has never made the Super Bowl is the Lions. So I think, Jared Goff's been a top 5 quarterback in the NFL last like 3 years in a row. That being said, you could make this about literally anybody at quarterback for the Lions because they've never been there, and this would still be buyable on its face. So the argument is accurate, but still a fallacy. But because it's, again, accurate on the front end, I'll buy it. Sure.
I'm selling. This is where Sports Road just doesn't even pay attention to the evidence right in front of them. Look at this Super Bowl. You have journeyman Sam Darnold going against a rookie, basically. I mean, it's his second year. Both of these teams are weaker than the Lions were, not this current season that we're finishing up, but the last 2 years with Goff at the helm. Very good Lions teams. But winning is hard. This year, we just have no Giants. The Chiefs fall by the wayside. The Lions are banged up and unlucky. Of course it's possible. Look at this Super Bowl. That's a silly take.
Next, we go to T. Mills, who says NFL and broadcaster stations will claim Bad Bunny, the halftime show, is the most watched ever, though we know it won't be.
Bet. I mean, that's 100% buy. 100% buy. You bet.
I'll sell. They don't have to do that. They don't care. They know that they can do this to you. They don't have to justify it or anything like that. They know you can do it to you, and you'll grouse and say, this isn't really what the NFL isn't about, but you will never stop turning in. They're not cornered. You are.
Next up, we go to Hammer O'Justice, who says the All-American halftime show will not do enough to move the needle because Sports Bro will either be too lazy to watch or will be playing games on his phone. We are way too comfortable.
Bye. But God bless them for trying with the All-American halftime show. I mean, at least somebody's trying something. But yeah,
I'll watch.
This absolutely understands the fundamentals of the problem.
These have been some interesting propositions because I think they're correct in one respect, but not completely so. And the first two that I felt that way about, I'll give a buy. So just to argue the other side of it, this time I'll do a sell, and here is why. The latter thing you say is a lot of people will not tune in because of the various reasons. I mean, I don't think I've watched a halftime show of the Super Bowl and I don't know how long. I'm getting refills of food, going to the bathroom. I think the last time I watched one, whichever one was more recent, Prince or when they had the Who.
Well, yeah, but
and
you're making
Roger Daltrey just had no vocal cords
This is
left.
accidentally
Whatever one was
a
the
good
most
point.
recent.
But
That's the
if
last
it
one
was
I watched.
great musical acts, Steve, you'd be watching classic acts. I'd be watching.
That's the thing. What's happened since then is it's been new, and mostly people I don't even know. I didn't know. I had no idea there was a musician named Bad Bunny until this got announced. Did not know this person lived on the earth. Didn't have a clue. Okay, so that's part of it. I'm old. I don't care anymore. I've outgrown. A lot of the acts they would get. So I do think that the latter thing you deduced will occur, but I I think it goes too far on the front end. Number one, we don't know what move the needle means. What does that mean? All right, you're competing at Turning Point's trying to compete against the most potent force in the history of Western pop culture, the Super Bowl. All right, it's the most watched event in human history every single year other than the lunar landing. So I mean, on one end you could say it's virtually impossible to move the needle against that period, no matter what you do. I still think millions will tune in and watch that TPUSA feed. Whether that moves the needle or not, I think is subjective. So I just think this goes a little too far. So also.
It sounds like Ryan, is it Ruth or Routh, the attempted Trump assassin number 2, has been sentenced to life in prison. Buy, sell, or hold will get answers from the FBI about any shady associations that team might have had.
So
no, I mean, I'll sell, and frankly, I think it's more likely. This is my great frustration. Is there's a large part of me that would like to be even more aggressive in pushing back on whatever Tucker thinks he's trying to do to our movement. But I think it's way more likely that Tucker's going to tell me about Ryan Routh than the Kash Patel will. And I'm not happy about that. If I could script the way these things go, that's not what I would write, but that's where we are.
So you're selling with prejudice.
Selling with prejudice, I am, yeah.
Next, we go to Trevor Moore. We need a segment for the Israel trip that ranks Steve's food order from 1 to 10 on how American the order is.
Oh, you guys have this one wrong, okay? I mean, we are going to one of the most cosmopolitan countries in the world with all kinds of clean, kosher food. If there's a lot of things about this trip I'm worried about, the food is nowhere on the list at all. Not on the list at all. Not worried about that at all. All right, do a mission trip for a week in Haiti. You'll be worrying about food. Okay. Food is the last thing I'm worried about, man. I'm not worried about that at all. I think we're going to be just fine. I'm not worried about that.
This
There'll be lots of good, clean food over there.
Of course, this is absolutely, if the trip goes sideways, this is one of the variables where it could. For sure.
Seriously, I'm really not. I'm not worried at all, man. Lots of good, clean, kosher food. I'm not worried about it at all.
Probably the best burger I've ever had was that kosher restaurant we went to in Dallas with Daniel that one time.
Yeah, we had to go there for Daniel.
Fantastic.
That burger was very good too. Yes, it was. And here's the thing, because it's kosher, it's well done.
Yes.
Right? Can't have any blood in the meat, right?
Yeah.
So, and they still made it very good. Yeah.
Next, we go to Pete Riccelli, who says GOP Senate majority understands the art of filibuster since they have essentially been filibustering themselves for the past 2 months into oblivion and loss of Congress in 2026.
I'll buy. This is 100%er.
You know what I learned yesterday? I learned that the majority, to hold quorum, can actually set up cots and just kind of stay in the vicinity. They don't have to sit there for 66.6 days. They could sleep if they wanted to. They could sleep on the job in order. If they really believed in something, wanted to get something passed, they could just sleep. They could just sleep.
I mean, listen, what's-her-nuts hasn't slept on a cot since she left the reservation, man. Do you think she's sleeping on a cot there in the Capitol Rotunda?
Sleep to save the country, to save the Republic. I mean, they could just sleep.
Well, there was so much meat on the bone in the montage that Steve didn't have a chance to get to this point, but Thune, just amazing. I mean, this isn't a lack of self-awareness. It's just shamelessness. That he says, here's the thing you got to understand. If we have these old school filibusters, that risks us not getting things done on all these other topics we care about. Now, let's just say for the sake of argument, the SAVE Act is a unique sticky wicket. And hey, there are all these other topics that we really need to act on as well, because that's true. Does the Republican Party have anything close to a track record where they are getting things done on a regular basis that we should even entertain that argument? But there he is making it, not even caring. Gosh, guys, if we just have a bunch of people talking all the time, how are we going to ever get things done? Right.
I appreciate, though, Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna trying to do a micro psyop on John Thune, posting memes of John Thune, the Giga Chad, if he passes the SAVE Act. I appreciate her efforts, though. I do appreciate that.
Agreed.
Next, we go to Dan Hammer, who says Todd and Aaron have been violating the dude code for not mentioning Steve's hug whenever Tom Homan comes up.
Totally fair. Totally fair. It is the most awkward hug of my entire lifetime. I still can't believe I did this. I can't. And I've frankly chosen to put it out of my mind. I've tried not thinking about it at all. Talking about him a lot this week. And I'm choosing to remember the conversation he and I had. And not that tender moment. Not my proudest moment. Not really sure what happened. And yeah.
All I know is you hugged an American patriot, man. Isn't it? That's all. That's all that needs to be said.
And what? Listen, man. This was a bro hug. Everybody needs to know this, right? It was a bro hug. It was.
And if it was socially awkward, let's face it, it's not the first time in your life you've been socially awkward. So it's just you hugging an American patriot. That's all we need to know.
No, and nor will it be the last. No, nor will it be the last.
Because your daughter will be live on air in a segment coming up soon where she reminds you of that. That's the spiritual gift that she has.
Yes.
All right, next up we go to Tom Gabriel, who says the verdict in the Fox Varian trans malpractice suit will force malpractice insurance premiums to skyrocket, thus making it financially not viable to be in the meatball surgery business.
I think it has the potential to do that, or at least set a precedent into motion that may cause a critical mass of cases that result in that. So I will buy. But one thing we have to do, you want to really make insurance liability premiums skyrocket, criminalize all of these procedures from cradle to grave, right? Now that we're seeing the mainstream medical groups come out and say, on second thought, now is the time, go for the full win, salt the earth, all right, legally. These things are criminalized and banned, cradle to grave. Salt the earth legally so they may never return. So we got as we put the monster back away inside of Pandora's box, right? We put a double-barreled master lock on that latch so it can never, and then we swallow the key so it can never, ever be unlatched again.
Steve's point is so crucial, which is why I'm going to sell. It should be the case if there was just one rogue enterprise, i.e. medicine, that kind of went off the rails. But all this happened part and parcel while lawyers watched all the time and clapped like trained seals. So it wasn't just automatically going to happen that suddenly they go ambulance chasing and there's just too much money. It would happen in some circumstances. But in terms of shutting it down altogether, the legal front, every front. I mean, the schools, we got a lot of ground to cover on this because there were a lot of people complicit in one of the great heinous crimes of the century.
Next, we go to Matthew, who says the ICE out movement is merely just the new iteration of defund the police.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
So I saw some of those protesters here in Phoenix last night coming back from our dinner, and lots of signs. Arizona melts ice. The dad joke in me didn't mind that one. But yeah, 100%. I mean, it's just the same worldview, different manifestations therein. 100% correct. Bye.
Bye.
Next is Twofer here. Shiniest Demon says, or Damon says, the SAVE Act will not pass. Jim Stalker says Lindsey Graham will detransition before the Senate passes the SAVE Act. By solo vote.
Oh my gosh. I'm gonna sell. All right. And I'm gonna admit this is a heart pick. Okay. Not a head pick. But in my heart, and we'll get into this with Daniel here at the bottom of the hour. And I'll tee it up for Daniel because this is something he's been saying for going on a decade, since Trump's first initial ascendancy in our body politic. He is going to have to, and I alluded to this again yesterday on the show too, he is going to have to expend political capital domestically to get this done. That throughout the course of his time as king, for whatever reasons. And I don't, I've not had a meaningful conversation with Donald Trump in 10 years, so I don't know, what those are. I can't read minds, but for whatever reason, I don't know the reasons, but we do know he has been way more hesitant to use his political capital to pressure domestically and lean on the Republican Party to follow through on what he and his base both want than he has been foreign and globalist interests. And he's going to have to do that here. Because if he doesn't, there's a realistic chance he'll get impeached and removed from office next year. A realistic chance, a non-zero chance. And if that doesn't happen, they'll at least be so bogged down for months in this, his ability to get anything he wants to get done the rest of his term will be debilitated without question. We can all debate to what degree and not really know, but it certainly won't make things easier. I think we can all agree on that. And it won't just be him. It'll be Secretary Kennedy. It'll be Secretary Hegseth, Secretary Rubio. It'll be them. It'll be the ones you like the most, all of them. And my heart just has to believe the guy that got shot in the face and stood up and said, fight, in the end, knows this better than us. He's the one that went to that trial. His name was called at trial, not ours. He's the one who took the bullet to the face, his face, not ours. And in my heart, I just have to believe that he will, at some point, put his considerable orange thumb on the scale and say, you're all they're doing this, or I'm wrecking you. And I just have to believe that. Because if I'm sitting here on February 4th with the election now, what is it almost exactly 9 months away? And if I come to that conclusion on February 4th, I'm going to have a hard time continuing to stay in and keep fighting, because then we're cooked. So what's the point? So I'm going to listen to my heart on this one and not my head.
Oh, I hear your head talking too. That's airtight logic, and I'm taking the Kash Patel option. I'm holding, because I got to see it with my own eyes.
I think Todd just has a strange fascination with just, having Kash Patel orate. Yes.
Next, we're going to go to Jonathan, who says the reason the audience has rarely seen Jill Savage in 2026 is that she has been in the CIA this entire time, while directing airstrikes in Venezuela and is now prepping Greenland for aggressive expansion. Do we know that she's not in the CIA?
We don't know that. I wish that were true. None of it is true. All right. I don't know why this wasn't announced. I don't know. I don't know why it still wasn't announced, but since a million guys have asked, let me just answer it now. The show that her and Matt did, our former editor, was not renewed. I don't know why we didn't just tell people that. I don't know the answer. I don't. But it was not renewed. And I just got a text from Jill yesterday. We still talk on a very regular basis. She's looking at what her next opportunities are going to be. And we're trying to get her booked back on the Deace group, Aaron. I know we've had those conversations of trying to make our schedules sync up. So you'll see her back on eventually, pending what job she eventually takes. And maybe a job that won't want her to do that. We shall see. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I really don't know why this whole thing has been so cloak and dagger. It's made zero sense to me. And it's not my place. I'm not in management around here. It's not my place to announce personnel decisions. But my goodness, it's been going on for 5 months, and people are still asking about it. So I'm just tired of pretending like we don't know what's going on when we do.
Yeah, Jill will be back hopefully this month, probably next month, if I had to guess, on the Deace group, I should say. Next up, we go to Bullfrog was here, and so was Speedwagon. Steve will speak at CPAC before Don Lemon goes to prison.
I hate you.
Oof.
Did you read the document? The charge. I think it's the charging document from the government. It's pretty damning. Having said that, though,
about his foreknowledge of the event and instigating it.
It's pretty damning.
It reminds me of, who's the guy from Salt Lake City? Remember? Who somehow went the Antifa guy from Salt Lake City and just happened to be the guy with the video right in the corner. Oh, the gal that they murdered.
Ashley Babbitt.
Yeah. Forgive me. I can't remember her name. Goodness, I'm so sorry. But he just so happened to get from Salt Lake City to that moment to film that. I mean, that's nuts. Okay. Now, how does Don Lemon know this is going on and going down?
Was it John Sullivan? Was that the name of the guy?
Yeah, that was the name of the Antifa guy. Yeah. So, man, that proposition hurt me to hear that, though. I've got to sell. Again, if I get to this point of thinking this on February 4th, I'm going to start asking myself, why am I going on the air tomorrow? What are we doing here? We're just doing or we're just going to do the Bible hour for 2 hours every day, and the rest of the world doesn't exist. So I can't. Even though I'm asking myself, like, literally every 6 minutes, why is Pam Bondi still employed? I can't get there yet. I can't. Give me a few months. Keep hope alive.
Yeah, I'll buy. It is damning. I agree. But we've got quite a track record of finding all kinds of reasons to just let murderers and rapists out of prison whenever we want to, and pretend there's no border, and then blame everybody for starting to enforce the border again. So, and now again, I don't know. I feel less flinching here in Minneapolis, so I'm concerned.
Next, 60-second man says the no tax on overtime mantra by Trump and Republicans will be their doom in the midterms. Only $12,500 is not taxed. You're legally required, and what is CBA? Overtime is taxed. Only half of the time and a half is not taxed. Making deceptive tax mantras great again, like the OG George Bush. Buy, sell, or hold, the no tax on overtime mantra might not go over well come tax time.
I'm going to sell. We have some systemic problems in this midterm. We aren't afforded the luxury of this being one of them yet. We have fundamental things. I mean, our own internal polling, we're underwater by like 20 points with independents in our own internal polling. Okay, so we have a couple fundamental things that have to be fixed. People have to believe that they can afford to live in America again, number one. We have to secure our elections, number two. We have to demonstrate that we can capably deport people who don't belong here and follow through on our campaign promise, number three. And we've been way too slow to follow through on our campaign promises about disclosure of sensitive subjects like Epstein, number four. You fix all those four, and then we are permitted the luxury of the nuance of this particular niche tax proposal. And I hope to have the ability to dig into that at some point this year, because it meant we fixed the four things that are killing us right now.
My instinct was exactly that.
Let's see. I don't think we have time for another submission, so Todd and I will get to the rest of these in overtime and then some.
All right. When we come back, Daniel Horowitz is going to be with us. And he is saying, one thing he is saying right now is it's Insurrection Act or bust for Trump. We'll get his thoughts on what that means and why he's saying it. And then also, is this finally the moment that Trump puts his thumb on the scale and forces the Republican Party to follow through on a policy that he and his base both clearly want? All right. We'll get to that and more with Daniel here in a moment.
The Steve Deace Show.
All right, back here on the Steve Deace Show. And we are powered by our friends over at Preborn. If you want to be one of the many that have been so generous to this outstanding ministry over the last few years with our partnership here at The Blaze, we're so proud of you guys. You guys have literally helped Preborn save tens of thousands of babies. And let's keep that going, because for as little as $28, your tax-deductible gift today, that's what it costs for an ultrasound that doubles a baby's chance at life. When mom's conscience has been convicted that she's not carrying an unviable tissue blob, but her baby, her child. And I think you're indirectly contributing to the eternal lives of these moms as well, for what happens when they don't commit the grievous moral sin of murder against their own offspring. So let's keep that going. You can make that donation today. 5-star charity. These people do the greatest work that you could do, and that's the work on behalf of life. Preborn.com/Steve. That's preborn.com/Steve. You can also dial pound 250 on your mobile phone and say the keyword baby, or go to preborn.com/Steve. Let's welcome in the prophet of woe and lamentation himself. It is good to see you, my friend. Daniel Horowitz, how are you, brother?
We're doing all right, Steve. A lot of ammo left in the tank.
All right, let's fire off some rounds then, my friend. You have been posting on social media recently, Insurrection Act or bust. All right, tell us what that means, why you're saying that.
Sure. Right now, we have a Fort Sumter moment. I called it last week, and then Tim Walz, the Minnesota governor, literally invoked it, saying, well, he hopes it's not, but gaslighting it that it kind of is. We have a neo-Confederacy. We have street and judicial mobs working in tandem. We now know we have checkpoints being set up by Antifa. We have ICE watch groups where you have everyone from the lieutenant governor and state legislators onto Antifa street thugs marshaling people into basically something worse than anything we've really seen in American history, because say what you want about what your immigration priorities are, no one could argue that it is within the federal purview of a national government to remove people here illegally. And if you don't like that, you have to change the laws. And they are militating against laws duly passed by Congress. This has reached a breaking point. The economy, I mean, look, Steve, I'm not going to have anything nice to say about it. So the other issue is immigration. This is really where he could floor the gas pedal. We now have 3 polls out, despite, in my view, Trump really lagging on this and not using the bully pulpit properly, and almost a one-sided negative PR barrage. There's now 3 polls that show there is a majority support for full deportations of everyone. A marquee law school poll just has it plus 12. And this is despite everything. So I think you have a narrow window to put this down and turn back the clock. Otherwise, it will be very clear that the blue states will be able to do whatever the hell they want on other issues too.
So we talked about this at the top of the show today, and we're defining, for the sake of, because you got to define what's a win, right? Okay, and so and a lot of this is just so highly subjective, and there's just things we don't know. So we're defining a win as an adequate show of force, resolve, and competent effectiveness that it dissuades other blue cities later this year when the weather warms up from trying to reignite a summer of love because they saw us pucker. That's how we're going to define a victory for the sake of argument on our show, okay? Are we sufficiently doing that, do you think?
No. When you look at the mixture of the symbiotic relationship between the street violence and the judicial violence, and they play off each other. So the more the street violence does their stuff, the more the judicial violence gets involved. For example, yesterday, an Oregon judge said, and I don't even know how you put an injunction preemptively on crowd control policy rather than retrospectively if someone is injured and they have a lawsuit, but it said you can't use rubber bullets and riot control. It's not just, this is the important thing, Steve. It's not about December, January in Minneapolis. It's about 12 months worth of getting kicked out of California, Portland, and even in Dallas, they were almost killed. And the numbers are down. I mean, they're better than under Biden and the second term of Obama, not the first term. But that's not enough for 10 million, being bookended by 2 Democrat presidencies, each bringing in 10 million, likely the next one too. We're just not getting it up. We're not getting the numbers up. You have to cut off funding for sanctuary cities. That needs to be a part of it. That was always an 80-20 issue. I don't understand why it wasn't a part of either the DHS or DOJ appropriation bill. But Republicans just sold us out on that. Steve, I got to tell you, this is connected to immigration. I have never seen this in 20 years of watching budget battles, where Democrats are trying to shoot at DHS, both figuratively and some of them literally. And there's
That's
a hostage
Department
in
of Homeland Security, by the way, is what Daniel's referring to. Yeah, go ahead.
And mainly ICE is what they want to target.
Yep.
And, not TSA. that much they don't. And anyway, they have 11 other appropriation bills of things they want to fund, full of earmarks and their stuff. So that it was a hostage within their line of sight. Mm-hmm. Republicans cleared the hostage for them so that they could take a clean shot at DHS. I don't understand it. I've never seen it. What it basically happened briefly is that there were 6 bills. So there was transportation, HUD, labor, education department, HHS, all of them funded at Biden levels, and HUD is funded at $7.6 billion more than Biden. Republicans agreed to permanently fund that for the remainder of the year, but only do DHS for now it's another 10 days. And that's what was signed yesterday. So now all 11 other appropriations bills are passed for the remainder of the year. So now come next Friday, Democrats could say, screw it. We're not funding DHS, and nothing else shuts down. I literally don't understand that.
So I think it's not just Minnesota that's going to determine a lot of the trajectory politically the rest of the year. But I think where things have gone with the SAVE Act may do the exact same thing. And I mean, I just did a campaign swing around Iowa with my governor candidate, Adam Steen. All right. Got asked about, election integrity, I think everywhere we went. This is still a massive issue for our base.
Our
right?
base, yeah.
We are right. I mean, Mike Lindell may end up being the Republican nominee for governor of Minnesota. Okay. So I think there's a ratio here, right? What the economy has to, the amount of surge in the economy to compensate for seepage of your own voters internally. On one hand, I'm greatly concerned that the bro dude vote, and I define that as the Rogan, Theo Vaughn, Sean Ryan vote. And just beyond how my own views morally, how upset I am that the Epstein dump we just did, we should have done this like a year ago. Okay. And we've taken a guy like Sean Ryan, who might have the largest bro dude audience in the country now next to Rogan. And he's just on X all day long, just crushing us. All right. For selling him out on that. He's completely disillusioned. Those are millions of voters listening that are downloading his podcast. We don't need those, do we? We don't need those. We're good. We got more voters than we know what to do with. We don't need Sean Ryan's 5 million people downloading his podcast every day. We just can't afford that level of seepage, right? And if we're going to now say to another, what's the percent of our people that if the Republicans don't really follow through on securing elections with the most basic fundamental principle here, that as far as we know, has no reverb on any of their donor class or core constituencies, and all their arguments our whole lives, Daniel, they couldn't do the stuff people like you and I want them to do because it wouldn't win elections, and all we care about is winning. Well, what would secure more of your win than making elections, secure, right? And I don't know what the percentage of our people that if we don't do this, we get demoralized and they stay home. But even if it's only 1 or 2%, we just can't afford to be seeping 1 or 2% out. We got 1 or 2% that we're demoralizing here, and 1 or 2% we're demoralizing there, and 1 or 2% we're demoralizing here, and sooner or later you got a real demoralization problem, right? And the amount of economic surge you need to get people to forget how demoralized they are we're getting to the realm where that's just probably not achievable in any of the 9 realms of the Marvel Cinematic Universe as we speak. We got to start freaking delivering on some things for some of our people here. And I think this is, for whatever reason, I don't know that you and I will ever know, all right, why Trump never really exercised, most of his presidencies, the amount of domestic political will and capital that he has so successfully on a foreign basis. Yeah. I plan to ask Jesus this question myself one day. I don't know. I got to know this one. It makes no sense to me. I'm kind of almost afraid of the answer, but for right now, he has to do that here. And he has to understand that if you don't do that here, you're getting impeached next year. And you might get removed from office next year.
Yes.
And it won't just be you. It'll be Pete Hegseth. It'll be Robert F. Kennedy Jr. They're going to try to create a graveyard of examples and salt the earth so that maybe somebody younger, more prepared to do the kinds of things that Trump kind of hinted at and talked about could never follow him ever again. And we have to understand that. We have to win this. We have to. He's going to have to put his thumb on the scale and say to John Thune, I will break my foot off something proper in you and make you wish your daddy wore a condom that night if you don't get this passed. The kinds of things he says to Zelensky and Xi, okay, and Macron and Khomeini, or does to these people, he's going to have to say and do that here. I don't know why he hasn't. We'll never know. But this has to be the exception right now. The SAVE Act has to be.
This is the central point, Stephen. It's not just the SAVE Act, but a few other things. Obviously, to fulfill the immigration mandate, all of it, the defund sanctuary cities, defund the court cases, so he could proceed with this employment, worksite verification, all that stuff that's going to get the job done. Here's the thing. It would be one thing if there was kind of 50-50 with these special elections. The polling had it even with independents, or maybe Dems +5 with indies. And you're like, I don't know, Daniel, that's kind of bold. Maybe it will turn people off. Here's the good news. You can't get worse than you already are. Okay, what would be even worse is when you look like a thief in the night, that everything you're doing is getting struck down, and then you're getting stymied. You look like you're wrong. People are attracted to a strong show of force. So then you got to do it. You've incurred all the liabilities. The first year he expended, we're not going to spill milk over that, talk over spilled milk with that weird reconciliation bill. But like you're saying, whether it's the talking filibuster, whether it's the budget bill, well, now it kind of did everything except for DHS, and whether it's another reconciliation bill, you got to have, HR 100. This is the ending illegal immigration bill as we know it. Ending mass migration. Okay, let's give that example. Ending judicial supremacy. And Trump knows how to call out names when he wants to. And you go around and you campaign and you use the bully pulpit and you make it clear this is what we want. Everyone tells me, well, Daniel, we have too many rhinos. Now, I'm not going to relitigate why we have so many rhinos after 5 cycles of MAGA, but we never even tried. It might not succeed. But push a bill, call your shot, and force it. What I am seeing now, to your point, is this talking filibuster was a ploy to get conservatives to rape themselves with this stupid DHS hostage bill. Oh, but then we'll use that to get the SAVE Act passed. And then Thune hasn't even committed to it. So A, he needs to commit to it. Trump needs to use that. But also, Steve, I have a question for you. If suddenly we have a ploy to get to 51 votes without fully abolishing the filibuster, just going back to talking filibuster, for the SAVE Act, how come it's never been used the last 13 months for anything else?
I know.
And there's no plan to use it for anything else. My understanding is it's a middle ground. It chews up a week of floor time, so you can't do it on everything. But if you have 2-3 priorities for the remainder of the year, they should be able to get them done.
Listen, you're asking a great question, but let me tell you what I said to the audience yesterday. I would not ask that question right now. Because here's another question we could ask. Well, then why can't we just do this on everything moving forward? We could ask it the other way too, right? And that's how I talked about it to the audience yesterday. I said, I would not do this right now. Wait, make them do it now on something that there's no reverb, there's no excuse whatsoever why they wouldn't do this. There's some no donor group that's going to lose employment because we deported their workers with or put an E-Verify on some, ag donor that they don't want. There's no reverb. There's no blowback here. Get them to do this on this perfect scenario now. And then once we do, and the president's signature on that bill is signed, we can then turn and say, okay, well, now that precedent is set, what are we doing moving forward? But we have to set the precedent first, I think. I'll give you the last word. Go ahead.
No, absolutely. I mean, this is a do or die moment. We've incurred all the liabilities. There's no such thing as lukewarm hell in politics. Okay. So, I mean, Trump is perceived by his opponents, and they've convinced some independents of it that he's a dictator and he's done all these things executively. My gosh, you just may as well codify them in Congress. There is a 95% chance you don't do it this year, you'll never get that chance again.
Indeed. I don't disagree with that, brother. Always good to see you, my man. Thank you.
See you next week.
You bet. Todd and Aaron, your thoughts?
Well, his answer to your Minneapolis question was mine, and it also reflects our conversation about Dan Bongino and going there and what can possibly get done in that environment. Yeah, I mean, all in right now, and it is Donald Trump. I guess the world you say you want doesn't really matter what you did in the past, good or bad. This is a defining moment, and as great as this last year has been on many fronts, it could all be imminently forgettable if he refuses to act on this front.
We could get anything we wanted done legislatively if our Republican senators were just willing to sleep. It blows my mind. Just willing to sleep on a cot. Could get anything done. If they just had the courage to sleep on a cot in the antechamber, could get anything done. Anything done. Anything done. If they could just sleep. But they're unwilling to do that, and then you start asking the questions that you've been asking for 15, 20 years that you've been doing this, Steve. Why won't they? Why won't they?
I'll close with this. Man, I hate, because he's done a lot of good, man. I hate always putting the onus on the guy that got shot in the face and nearly put in prison. Okay? I do. I mean, I hate the fact that essentially it's up to Trump to do virtually everything. I hate it. But it's kind of up to Trump to do virtually everything. We don't have, that's all we got, man. That's all we got. And if he doesn't do it, nothing good gets done. I think that's just been demonstrated for the entirety of this last decade. So it is what it is. And it's go time. It's win or go home time. Go hard, Romans 8:28.